Hello, welcome my boulder friends. In today's video, the review of the fragrance of my favorite beverage. And I don't know if it's focused enough, but it's called Double Espresso by Fragrance World. And this is the bottle, and it's quite interesting for. I think the camera picks it up. It is violet colored. Depends a little bit on how the light falls, but it's violet colored. Quite an interesting, nice bottle. There's of course a whole line of it. I already reviewed the Copy Luwak video on it, and I would highly recommend you all to watch also that review. I also have the Irish coffee fragrance in this line, but that has to be reviewed in the future. It's an interesting fragrance. It has some nice amber notes, a little bit of woodiness, a bit balsamic even, and it's really smelling like grounded coffee beans, like strong grounded coffee beans, like for an espresso, with some earthy balsamic tones in it, which is of course also like like coffee, which is quite fitting for the coffee collection Double Espresso. It launched last year in 2024. As I said before, there's a whole line of it. And the notes stated aren't that surprising. It opens up with a espresso note. Later on in the fragrance, in the mid and in the base, it sweetens up a little bit with some resins, benzoin, and a note called Ciao. And that Ciao is from a certain tree which has small yellow blossoms, giving an herbal bitter aroma, which is quite fitting, of course, for the double espresso bitterness of this fragrance. And it is a bitter fragrance, and I know we're still in the mid notes, but it isn't necessarily an mass appealing or perhaps even appealing at all. It's really an interesting fragrance. I guess the benzoin and has some vanillic tones in it, sweetens it up a little bit and makes it more wearable, but especially in the first hour, 3 hours, something like that. I would say it isn't necessarily that mass appealing. It dries down in a more greenish woodiness base with some vetiver and some patchouli, giving a little bit of the cacao, just like the mocha, if you will, a bit of a coffeeness, chocolatey vibe. I would say it's quite a long-lasting fragrance. I would say around 9 hours, 10 hours, of course, depending on how warm it is outside, humidity, skin chemistry, or etc, etc, etc. However, the sillage, the projection, etc, isn't that great, if you will. It isn't that it isn't a room filler. It's quite a soft projection, but it has a nice coffee aroma to it. And again, in the mid and base, later on in this fragrance, it sweetens up a little bit and gives it a little bit more nice to wear vibes. What quite interesting is about this fragrance is that it's quite unisex, and in a way it actually reminds me a little bit of fragrances like Ancre Noir in its, that's of course with well, with a lot of vetiver, etc. In its almost in its animalic, almost harsh vibe to the fragrance, which makes it leaning quite far away from, you know, the classic moss appealing blue fragrance types you see well, everywhere always. Okay, a little bit of a final verdict. It's an interesting one, and also if you watch the reviews or comments on this fragrance, I guess it comes down to everyone's own association with double espresso, with really dark, strong coffee note. I see for a lot of people that it has some coziness. You got, of course, the vanillic vibes in it also. And I guess that if you frequent goer to a coffee shop and like to sit around with friends, with family, you have the association that it's a nice cozy vibe, and it's really nice to sit with people and you got the coffee. On the other hand, if you are really into scents that are light, that are more bluish or green fragrances, I can see that people were really on the other end of the spectrum would really dislike this one for its strong, unsweetened and unsweetened coffee note to this fragrance. So as always, I would say try it out yourself. Comment down below if you have tried this fragrance or any other out of this line. I really liked Kopi Luwak, and this one a little bit less, but well, I would say check out the Kopi Luwak review for that one. Touches my heart. Have a nice day. Ciao.